So gather around this model. And we're going to look at the model, then we're going to look at the site. So look at this, and then look at that. And that's what you're looking at. Now, you see this hill right here. That's the hill that you see over there. It's not just a hill, that's a tell. Okay, so that's the tell of Beit-She'an. And we're going to read a scripture here in a moment about Beit-She'an. And when we're talking about Beit-She'an, of course, we're not talking about all this stuff. We're talking only about that Old Testament tell site over there. Okay, now you can see the Harod that comes down through here, which is the water source for that ancient site. And we're going to read one thing that happened here in the Bible in a moment. But then what I want you to see is that then there was a invention that changed things. And that invention was the aqueduct. And when the aqueduct was invented, you could have your city spread out, and you could bring water from springs far, far away. You could bring water however you wanted to your city, and it allowed the cities to spread out. And so this is one of the Decapolis cities, meaning the 10 cities, the original 10 cities. There were more than 10 Decapolis cities. This is the only one that's on the west side of the Jordan River. Okay, and so when it becomes a city like this is during the Hellenistic period. So you remember the Seleucids, the Greek Empire. The Greek Empire, Alexander the Great died, and then his 4 generals were divided land, and one became the Seleucids, which were up in Syria, and the other one the Ptolemies, which were down in Egypt. And so this was the Seleucids that started this during the Hellenistic period. And the name of this city here that you see is Scytopolis, whereas that ancient Hebrew city there is Beit-She'an, and before that Canaanite. Okay? And then in the Roman period, then it continues as a city. Now look at the walls of this city here as compared to the walls of that city in that tell, which are still buried inside that mound. In fact, one of the things that keeps a mound so shaped like a mound, like a tell, is those Middle Bronze walls, as we'll be seeing, that are inside of there, that keep that shape. Okay, now you can see during the Greek and Roman period, they put a temple up on top of the hill. That makes sense, doesn't it? And they put another one. At the end of the Cardo Maximus, which you see going down right here. This here is the theater, which is right over here. You see there's a hippodrome down here. There's an amphitheater over here. The same kind of things that we've been talking about that happened in these other cities happened here. And then this road, you see the theater, and then you see that main road that's going north and south. That's a pillared road. Do you see that? That is called the Cardo Maximus. And I want you to remember that. Cardo Maximus means the main street that goes north and south. Huh? Cardo means street.
Also cardiology.
Yeah. Cardo Maximus, okay? And then at the very end, which isn't depicted very good on this, there's a temple. There's a little temple at the end there. I think it was a much bigger temple than what they have depicted here. But anyways, you go down the street, and then you got your bathhouses in the Roman period, and you got all the things that you've got in a Greek and Roman polis city. 1 Samuel 31. Now one thing we're going to do you remember seeing Mount Gilboa from the other side at Megiddo? So Mount Gilboa is right there. And one thing some of us will do, you see those stairs that go all the way up on top? Some of us will climb up to the top and take a look around. I don't know how much we're going to be able to see with the haze and everything, but and then we'll come back down. Not everybody obviously needs to do that, so you can wander around these ruins and take a closer look at those who don't want to do that.
First Samuel what?
First Samuel 31. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled before them, and many fell dead on Mount Gilboa. And if we climb up there, we'll see Mount Gilboa right over here. For the rest of you, you'll see it as we pull out of Beit-She'an and go down. You'll see it out the right side of the bus. The Philistines were in hot pursuit of Saul and his sons, and they killed his sons Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The fighting grew fierce around Saul, and when the archers overtook him, they wounded him critically. Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through, or these uncircumcised fellows will come and run me through and abuse me." But this armor-bearer was terrified and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When the armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul and his 3 sons and his armor-bearer and all his men died together that same day. When the Israelites along the valley and those across the Jordan saw that the Israelite army had fled and that Saul and his sons had died, they abandoned their towns and fled, and the Philistines came and occupied them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and they sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to proclaim the news in the temple of their idols and among their people. They put his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreths and fastened his body to the wall of Beth-She'an. Okay, so this temple that was probably on the summit of the city, and there have been temples found up there. And we'll see some of the ruins of them when we go up there. And then they fastened on the wall their bodies. Now it says, when the people of Jabesh-Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their valiant men marched through the night to Beth-She'an. They took down the bodies of Saul and his sons from the wall of Beth-She'an and went to Jabesh, where they burned them. Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Jabesh, and they fasted 7 days. So Jabesh-Gilead is in Jordan, on the other side of the Jordan River. Okay, so why are the men of Jabesh-Gilead? This is one of the sites that I visit when I'm over in Jordan. Why would the men of Jabesh-Gilead come over here and take the bodies of Saul and his sons back and bury them at Jabesh-Gilead? Let me just give you a summary of why, and I'm gonna just give you just the basics, but remember the story. Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin, and so he's at Gibeah, a site just north of Jerusalem called Gibeah. If you remember the story of the guy who's traveling through with his concubine, and his concubine gets horribly raped at Gibeah, and he cuts her body up, and sends it to the 11 tribes of, meaning all those but Benjamin, and gathers them for war against Benjamin. They fight against Benjamin. They lose at first, but then they have a great victory, and they decimate the Benjamites down to, what is it? I think it's 700? 600 men, or very few men. And they make a vow that nobody is to give them wives. And so they've got this problem. It's a desperate problem. They're about to lose one of the tribes of Israel. It's serious stuff. So as a solution, they're having a festival out in the vineyards at Shiloh, and they send the men up there to go steal some wives, and they go in there and grab their wives and run off, but still there's not enough. And so they're in a desperate situation. And they ask this question: which are the cities that did not come and fight with us against Benjamin? Jabesh-Gilead. So they go to Jabesh-Gilead, they kill the men of Jabesh-Gilead, and they take the women, the Benjamites, as for themselves. And from that time on, that's how they're connected then to the tribe of Benjamin. They're intermarried with them, so that when Saul, the Benjamite king, and his sons are killed, they're the ones that come and give them proper burial. Okay, so that's that. Where is Rach? So now I want you to turn to page 112. Because while we're here in Beit-She'an, I want to teach you about Jerusalem. Okay? Do you see what's happened here? You got the Old Testament site, and then you've got the Greek Roman period site. Same thing happens in Jerusalem, only it's a little bit different. Here you have the tell sticking up and the Greek and Roman city around. In Jerusalem, what we're going to talk about is you have the Old Testament site into the New Testament site beneath, and the later Roman site over the top. This is the city, or a portion of the city of the time of Jesus. Herod the Great built this city, or he expanded the city. So do you see it? That's his palace over there to the right, and I'm specifying a place in this city, but there was the Roman city, the Roman period city of Herod the Great, but it was still a Jewish city at that time. Does that make sense? The Romans are ruling over it. They have authority over it, which is why Herod's got his palace right here. But it's still a Jewish city. A Jewish city isn't going to be laid out like that, is it? No. That's a Greek or a Roman city. And so the city of Jerusalem that Jesus lived, and the events that happened to him, is totally different. It's a Jewish city that was destroyed in 70 AD. So now you got to turn that that Jewish city in the Roman period into rubble. And then along comes a Roman emperor named Hadrian. Okay, and he comes in 130 AD. So just under 100 years after Jesus' resurrection and ascension. So he comes to the ruins of Jerusalem, that Jewish city of Jerusalem, and he's going to build a Roman city. Is the Roman city going to look anything like the Jewish city underneath it?
Not at all.
So he takes in and he flattens it out. He puts fill dirt in and everywhere, and flattens the city out to do it. And then he's going to choose, because that's how you build a Roman city. He's going to choose where his main temple is going to be. And then he's going to lay out the grid of the rest of the city around that main temple. Do you see that? And in this picture on 112, you see where his main temple is. We're going to go all through this in Jerusalem, but this, I think, will visually help you understand that, because Jerusalem is occupied, so you can't see this city like you can here. Okay, so here, so he laid out his city, and then he laid out his Cardo Maximus. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. So do you see this? This is the Cardo Maximus of the city that Hadrian built. He didn't call it Jerusalem. He called it Aelia Capitolina. Aelia Capitolina. And we're going to be learning that. I want you to know that. Aelia Capitolina. He's the one that changed the name of Judea to Palestine. Yeah, okay. So the Cardo Maximus here goes down. You can see it there with the pillars on either side. And then on that right side, at the end there was a temple here. All that's left really are the steps that go up into that temple. Okay, and in Aelia Capitolina, he put his main temple there, and then he laid out his Cardo Maximus to take you to that temple. Does that make sense? Yes. He also put a shrine. Let's see, maybe that's on 102. No, because I'm hiding that because I go over that later. But he put a shrine up on the Temple Mount with a statue of Jupiter and himself. Okay? So why did he put that temple right there? Because underneath it is the tomb of Jesus. And the crucifixion place of Jesus. So if you're looking at Aelia Capitolina right now, The tomb and crucifixion place of Jesus would be at the end of the Cardo Maximus, and that temple that comes right off of the Cardo Maximus. Okay, because what his goal was Christianity was going on. He wants to subplant. People are going there and they're worshiping Jesus. This is the place that Jesus rose from the dead. This is the place where he died for the sins of the world, and he's wanting to subplant that worship place with pagan worship. So he puts up a Venus statue and he puts up a temple to Jupiter, which we'll be talking about, so that on the very place that Jesus died and was buried and rose from the dead, now in Aelia Capitolina with the ruins of Jerusalem underneath, they are worshiping Venus and Jupiter, where Jesus did the greatest events in human history.
Amen.
Okay? So the problem now with Jerusalem is Jerusalem today is still in the basic configuration plan of Hadrian's Aelia Capitolina. It's just that we keep going up on the layers with the Byzantines. In fact, on 112, look, if you look down to the left, that's a model of Byzantine Jerusalem. Look at how Byzantine Jerusalem looks compared to Aelia Capitolina. Do you see how it's the same layout? The only difference is instead of a temple, we have a church commemorating those places. Okay, you understand? Now when we get to Jerusalem, it's not going to look anything like this. And you can only see the pieces of the Old Testament city if you dig way down to that layer. And you only see the time of Jesus if you dig way down to that layer. Not as far down, but still quite a ways down. And yet the pattern of Aelia Capitolina is what everybody's still walking through, and we'll see that pattern where we're there. But while we're here, I want you to visually see that. I want you to take, again, a mental image of that, so that, because we'll see just little pieces of the Cardo Maximus that have been excavated in Jerusalem, and then we'll understand that we're on a Cardo Maximus that once looked just like that. Well, actually, it looked much better than that, but if it was excavated out, the ruins would look like that. Now, the city suffered major earthquake damage. You can see the pillars that are all strewn all over the place, and you can see the street, the Cardo Maximus here, is greatly damaged by it as well.
Do they still have earthquakes here?
Yes, they still have earthquakes here. They haven't had a big one in a while, which hopefully it'll be a while longer. Again, so if we're in Aelia Capitolina, we came in the main entrance and we're heading north. Actually, there we would come in from the north and head south, so it's opposite of what we're doing here. But we're walking down Hadrian's main north-south Cardo Maximus, and then we would come to a set of steps, and not a small set of steps, but a big set of steps going up into the worship place of Venus and Jupiter, built over the crucifixion place and the tomb, as we'll go over there. In other words, there's two holy places, the two main holy places in Jerusalem that Hadrian desecrated was the crucifixion and tomb of Jesus as one, and then the other one was where the Jewish temple stood, which is where the Dome of the Rock is today. We don't know whose temple this was, but it would have been the major temple of the city. This is the main east-west street called the Decumanus, and this is the main north-south street, the Cardo Maximus, and then we have this temple, and it would have been a substantial temple. I mean, there's nothing left of it. It ends, the ruins of it end on that back side. But, okay, so everybody understand? If we're in Aelia Capitolina, the ruins of Jesus' city, which was a Jewish city, controlled by the Romans, but a Jewish city nonetheless, would be underneath our feet in the rubble of 70 AD. And then Hadrian, from that rubble, built his own city and laid the whole city out according to two holy places, previous holy places. One, the place where Jesus was crucified, buried, and rose from the dead, one, and the other one up on the Temple Mount, where the Jewish temple stood, where he put a statue, a worship place with a statue of himself and Jupiter. And he named the city Aelia, himself a god in his mind, and Jupiter Capitolina. Okay, so you can come up these stairs, and in Aelia Capitolina, these stairs will go up and up and up until you came to Golgotha, the place of crucifixion. And you can see there's just nothing left of this temple except this staircase and this part right here.
We know how far it went.
It would have been a substantial temple. It would have been the main temple of the city because of where it's situated on these,
Right, the
on these
main
roads.
corner.
But look at this. Look at all this damage from the earthquake.
Gosh.
So when this was excavated, there was a guy right underneath there with his limbs on either side like this. I'm just kidding. Although it could be.
He says.
We believe everything you say.
What they found here. I have some replicas. No, they're stuck on over.
Inside what it might be, but it looks like it's stuck on the outside.
This almost looks Philistine.
Yeah. Wow.
And in fact, they excavated a Philistine temple in Gath, Philistine Gath, and it looks like this before they took it out because it kept going down. But you can stand in between it like this, put your hands on either side. I couldn't quite push them over, but someone we know
Your
could.
hair's not long enough.
Yes, that's
There you
right.
go.
That's
Hair's
right.
too short.
Why would they used to be pillars?
So really the point of this evidence is that Egypt was intent in keeping control in this area. Okay, now geographically, you can't quite see up into the Sea of Galilee, but you get the understanding of where it is. And we're down here looking up into here. We're here looking up into here. Now try to connect this in your mind with the geography that we were looking at yesterday from up at the top of the Dan right here. So we were like over in here somewhere, looking up into what ancient Aram would be, and then then up into Mesopotamia. Things are, I think that you're having this experience, things are closer together than you probably had them pictured in your minds. Caesarea's not on here because it didn't exist yet. Here's Megiddo.
Where are we
So
now?
we're here at Beit-She'an. So we were this way looking down the valley, and now we're over here looking this way down the valley.
And where is Samaria?
Here's Pella right here. So
Where would
here's,
Samaria be?
they probably don't have, here's Samaria.
Or it's not even in the valley. Where's Jezreel?
Jezreel would be, it would
right
be
there.
about right there.
It's under your
Right in
finger.
that area. That's where on the.
Does it say Jezreel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right here.
The valley.
Yeah.
That's a valley.
It's actually, they don't have a dot for it. Oh, they're saying Jezreel Valley here.
Yeah, that's the valley. This
But
is the city.
here's the city is
My eyes.
that was
here.
I'm keeping it under wraps.
Ahab's winter.
no, this is Jezreel right here. So Beth-Shean, Megiddo, this is Jezreel.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry to ask. We were talking about this. Where is he saying
That's
it is?
that's the wrong place. I don't know why they have it there. It should be right here.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
100. All right.
Now look, it's here. Where is okay, so I don't think they have it, but here's Jericho. So about right here is Bethel, and about right here is Hebron. Okay, Sodom, Gomorrah, and Lot's cave is over here. So when Lot and Abraham separate, then Lot goes down into the valley here. But then it says that he moves his tents as far as Sodom. And just as Abraham, when they separate here, he moves his tents as far as Beersheba.
Yeah, Beersheba. Yeah,
Okay, so just because they separate here doesn't mean that's where these cities are located. It says specifically that he moved his house as far. Then Ezekiel 16:46 says Samaria is north of Jerusalem, and it says that Sodom is south of Jerusalem. Here's where Tal Hammam is. Here. It cannot, on that verse alone, it cannot be Sodom. That doesn't mean that this is Sodom, but at least that's south. And then it says that another verse says from Sidon, which is up here, to Gaza is the border of Canaan, and then the southern border it goes across to Gerar, and then across to Sodom. So this lines up with Gaza. You see that? And then even in the Roman period and before in the Greek period, we have them writing about this site as Sodom, and then they put it on the Madaba map, which is the oldest map that we have of the Holy Land, which is in a church floor, mosaic floor over in Jordan, in Madaba, and it's here. Well, they have it Sodom, Gomorrah, and then Lot's cave where Zor is, where he ran to, which was real close, and that's what's on the Madaba map is Zor and Lot's cave, which we have the church that they're talking about there too that we visit. And so Sodom has to be close. This area right here is not preserved on the map, but Sodom and Gomorrah have to be close to that because Lot asked to run. He's not going to run all the way from here to here.